Okay, so part two now of our little experiment into animation in Blender. And what I want to do is I want to show you how to actually do animation on this without actually having to physically move the cube with rotation and scaling and everything else. Basically, we want to start applying some basic physics to this thing to understand how it would move if it was properly done. So basically, if it were in a game engine or potentially if we were creating a real animation. We don't always want to be constantly moving things around. We want them to interact with the environment and do different things. So let's start off by deleting these, which I did in the last video, and they were my keyframes. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my cube and I'm just going to go G and Z, and I'm going to keep it slightly in camera, but I'm going to do a little thing down here. I'm going to add a mesh and a plane, and I'm going to increase the size of the plane because I need enough space to catch this as it falls. So the idea is very simple at this point. I want the cube to fall. Now at the moment, because there are no physics enabled anywhere, it doesn't do anything when I run my timeline with space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by clicking on my plane and adding some physics, and I'm going to make this a collision. So a collision is just basically a hard surface that stops movement, and with our cube I'm actually going to use cloth because cloth is a nice easy one to get used to how this works. Okay, I'm going to run my time frame again, and you will now see that gravity enacts on the cube, so we actually have some physics going on within our scene, but it just kind of hits the ground and then does pretty much nothing else. It just sort of sits there. Now part of this is down to things like the mass of the vertices, the kind of air viscosity, basically how thick and heavy the air is. All of these things kind of add together, tension and compression and lots of other things. But I'm just going to move these around a little bit, and you can see it's still not really doing anything, and that's because it's basically a single cube. And the problem with this single cube is they're very inflexible. They're a strong structure. So let's just go into edit mode. Let's select it all, right click and subdivide it. Come out of edit mode, and what we should see now is a slight bounce. So you can see it's just kind of here. It's rippled a little bit, and that's because we've got more subdivisions. Again, subdivide it a bit more. I'm going to run this subdivision up, come out and then run it again. And now we have more of a deflation effect going on. It's literally crumpling under its own weight, and that's because a combination of different factors is causing our box to basically have more vertices. Those vertices have weight. That weight is pushing downwards, and that is literally how simple it is to get going on the use of these collisions. Now we can of course change our tension settings if we want to, increase the compression ratio, and it just kind of affects the way it works. Now you should with the same settings get the same effect every single time. Now there's other things that you can add in, so things like internal springs, and again all of these little things alter the way that it works. And you can see now that I've added internal springs, it's not falling apart, it's actually a lot more rubbery and is able to bounce and pull back. And there's quite a few other settings that you could play around with for a very long time to see what they do. Overall though, there we go. That is a very, very simple review of how to actually animate something without physically moving it around, to actually add some physics to the scene and actually make your objects feel like they're actually part of a physical world. Okay, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next video.